Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. My name is Mohammed Saleh. Russia has made its intentions pretty clear, with Ukraine's Western allies giving the green signal for Kiev to use long-range weapons to strike targets deep inside Russia. Moscow wants to turn the tables on Washington. Not only is Vladimir Putin now threatening to arm the enemies of the Western nations, but what is interesting is that the Russian warships appear to be heading towards the Caribbean for some surprise and unannounced war games to project Russian naval power in the Western Hemisphere. A war that Washington thought would be fought only in the muddy battlefields of Europe appears to be spreading its effect to the shores of the United States. So how will the Biden administration respond to the Russian warships who will be making port calls in Cuba and Venezuela and also testing their firepower in the Caribbean? Our next report gets you more details. The NATO military alliance can no longer claim that it is not involved in the Ukraine war. The decision of what weapons Ukraine will fight this war with and the targets that Ukraine will strike to defend itself aren't just being made in Kiev, but in fact are being controlled directly by NATO's military allies.
Ukraine has the right to defend itself. They have the right to strike military targets on the Russian territory, and we have the right to help them with that task.
On the 7th of June, 5 American-manufactured long-range ATACMS were used to strike a building in Russian-occupied Luhansk in which over 20 people were injured. The Russian city of Belgorod, that is about 40 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, is bearing the brunt. Shelling by the Ukrainians has resulted in the deaths of 4 civilians and at least about 12 people, including a child, have sustained injuries. Galina Nizamudinova, a resident of Belgorod, describes the moment when a Ukrainian shell struck her neighborhood.
Oh, I heard. It was very loud. I got scared and screamed. I took a few things and wanted to go to my children in the city center. I thought about a taxi maybe. I got out and there's a crowd of people near the car. And everything is already broken.
The scale of the Ukrainian attacks inside the Russian territory are nowhere near the scale of the devastation that the Russians have heaped over the Ukrainians. This drone footage, captured this week from over the city of Vovchansk in Kharkiv, will give you a glimpse of what's been unleashed on the Ukrainians. Kiev still controls about 70% of Vovchansk. 17,000 civilians have fled from here. And soldiers are battling street by street to control this crucial city that's now been reduced to complete ruins. But there's still no possibility of talks or ceasefire in this war. France, Germany and now the United States have given the green signal for Ukraine to strike targets inside the Russian territory using long-range missiles. And Vladimir Putin has made no bones about how Russia would respond to this Western strategy.
We are thinking that if they consider it possible to deliver such weapons to the combat zone to launch strikes on our territory and create problems for us, why don't we have the right to supply weapons of the same type to some regions of the world where they can be used to launch strikes on sensitive facilities of the countries that do it to Russia? The answer may be asymmetric.
If the Russian president follows through on this threat, this would be a major inflection point in this war. But a bigger concern that's been flagged by the American officials is the path taken by the Russian warships, who appear to be headed for some surprise and unannounced war games in the Caribbean. The United States, which is tracking the Russian warships and aircraft, has indicated that the Russian warships could make port calls in Cuba and even in Venezuela, as they engage in this exercise of heightened air and naval firepower. The last time the Russian warships had moved into the Caribbean for military drills was in 2019. But what is different this time round is that the United States and Russia are caught in an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation on the battlefields of Ukraine.